It's Friday, June 6th, 2025. All right, let's start off, as we typically do, by letting you know that if you'd like to support our show, then all you got to do is go to supportourshow.com.
Yeah.
I have added a new domain to the stable.
Oh, yeah?
I could not resist. I was watching a video. I watch a lot of videos about obscure PlayStation 1 games these days. I've said this a few times. It's still quite entertaining for me because there is such a wide, weird world of things that people were allowed to do before everything became, you have to make $1 billion per game. And apparently at one point, there's a fascinating game that I will probably play if it ever gets a translation called Kowloon's Gate. It's kind of a half first-person dungeon crawler, half first-person.
I've heard of that.
Yeah, well, Kowloon Walled City is the famous city, and this game is kind of set inside of it.
Yeah, but is that PlayStation 1, you said?
It is, yeah. I think it was ported to a couple places, but I believe the original was PlayStation 1.
I've heard of that game.
And apparently, when that game came out, there was an effort by the developers because that game makes use of what used to be the way that these types of games were made before. It was very easy to have 3D graphics and everything. They would have like full still images, kind of Resident Evil style, where you're moving, but it's a still image when you move and it stops, and then it moves and it stops, and it moves and it stops. And that's about half of the game when you're not doing the dungeon crawling part, which is first person kind of Doom style. And the developers wanted to popularize their term for that, and they called it a JPEG dungeon, which apparently never took off. But as soon as I heard that term, I thought, does somebody have jpegdungeon.com? They don't. I now do. And it redirects to my artwork site. So jpegdungeon.com is now mine. We'll see in a year from now if I'm still as enamored of it. But I have it now, and I put it into the stable. I retire them and do new ones every year or so when they come up for renewal. I kind of put some out to pasture and welcome in new ones. So support our show, where I misspelled the support thing I was trying to do, or support the show. That's gone. So I don't know where that's going now, but don't use ours. But anyway, yeah, jpegdungeon.com will redirect you to ozoneartfoundry.com, or you could just use ozoneartfoundry.com and that will take you there. But supportourshow.com will take you to where you can actually support the show in general. One update I'm making with the Patreon stuff, I decided I was having anything that came out in the Patreon channel, which is all still free. It's all still every tier, free or non. But I was having it come out at 10 a.m., and then the regular stuff would post at 12. I'm going to bump that up to 8 a.m. just to make it a little earlier, and that way if there are people in different time zones, it'll come out maybe a little bit better for them. So I'm going to bump that back to 8 a.m. Not a huge change. Doesn't probably impact anybody. I doubt anyone is jumping on the minute they post, but I'm going to push them back to 8 because I know there are people outside the United States, and so for them, it might not come out at midnight now. You know what I mean? It might be a little earlier, so why not? Doesn't matter. And then it'll just come out on the regular channels at noon like it always does. But yeah, I'm just going to push it from 10 to 8. And that's just going backwards. Otherwise, same thing. I did have a set of things to start with. I don't usually have starters, but unusually I have 2 different ones. I'm going to start with one that just feels like a joke. I mean, it literally is a joke, but it was something that I internally wondered how long it would take. And no surprise, it hasn't taken that long at all. Many people are probably aware, in fact, I did a 5 earlier in the week, about Google's new VO3 art generation tool, which everybody's losing their mind over, because it's a generative video tool that is pretty realistic. I mean, it's all the samey stuff, so you can recognize it for the repetition, but it's not multiplying fingers. It is making video that appears to be highly realistic and probably for most people indistinguishable from actual real video. And I thought internally to myself, how long before people start pretending to be the fake video? And sure enough, it's already happening. Now on TikTok, people are pretending to be the VO3 video creations. And I got to tell you, I fucking adore it. It's great. Funny. That is just delightful. So yes, it has now come full circle. The machines imitating us are now being imitated by us to be the machines.
And the funny thing is, to what end, really? I was thinking of this the other day because I saw something that was somebody was going on about, like, we've talked about this, AI art and what it's going to do. Yeah. And I realized some funny things about it. It's going to do different things for different people, is the number one. Yeah. But, like, I find that the second I realize something is generated, the only place I accept it, I've realized, is in comedy. Like, somebody did a silly video. I think they did a metal song, right? That was Lord of the Rings. Mm-hmm. And they did a music video, and it was like AI generated, but it was like, what's his name? Gandalf playing like the electric guitar, right? And it was meant to be funny. And it was funny. Yeah. And I was okay with that because somebody somewhere was like, you know what? I want to do a funny thing. And there was another aspect of it, which is that they were making music, right? Or if a comedian comes up with an idea and just wants to generate it as part of... It was like John Oliver uses like visual aids when he's doing his comedy, right? Where they'll have like a visual of something like a rat fucking a burrito or something like that, right?
Sure.
I don't mind it there, oddly. But but I don't mind it because it's usually brief. It's just like a 5 to 2 minute visual aid. The second you get beyond that, I find that I check out. So like if I find out there's a movie or something like that and it's all done with AI, I check out. I just check out. And what's funny is that I'd rather watch stuff that's traditionally rendered, like like a cutscene from Metal Gear Solid, right? Because at least I know that somebody worked to create that. It wasn't just a what do you call it? Like a machine just running the numbers. You know what I mean? Like somebody actually sat there and messed with it and tweaked it and tried to work it. And it's the same with like oh man, I've seen like because it's going there. There's tons of like pornography now that's being AI generated, right?
Of course.
Honestly, it has no effect. I see that and I'm like, this is like cartoons to me. And I think that's the thing, is that I'm sure that at some point it'll become almost as real. But the second I know that it's not real, I don't know what it is. I just lose interest in it. Same with movies. Like, if you tell me that a character is CG, right, but it's being rendered by a person, I'm interested. But if I find that something is just totally AI rendered, there's no one there, they don't really exist, the writing better be really good. And I'm waiting for that, the first AI, like, actor or something like that they use in a movie with real people. Because people already act with tennis balls anyway, right, on green screen. So I'm waiting for that, for them to do, like, an AI-generated actor.
I guess that would be the thing is, well, what's the difference between that and a beach ball? I mean, the person's not really there. Even if somebody does the animation as a person later, they're not there. So to me, that makes no difference. But the interesting part is it's probably a year from being indistinguishable.
Yeah.
So what's the difference? In other words, okay, if nobody points out to you
If I
that
don't
it's an
know, that's the
AI
thing.
thing,
I would be curious to watch. I want to watch a bunch of things where I don't
but
know that.
why would knowing if it's indistinguishable matter? Like,
I
let's
don't
say you watched
know.
a movie and then they told you.
I don't know, but there's just it's something about like
I don't
I guess
disagree,
the
but I can't figure it out. It
no. I
feels
think
like
it's
it's
something
just
behind.
a
No,
thing
I think
we,
it's something behind the
yeah,
meaning behind it. Because the thing is, whatever is created, whatever is written, painted, sung, like all these things, there's always a human experience behind it. There's always somebody's story behind it, whether you know it or not. There's an
sure,
identity that created that. It's the whole idea of, you know what, I'm looking at Bob's script of this short film, right? And Bob had to be born. I mean, going back to Bob the God here, but Bob was born. Bob had to have two parents across who were then also the children of two parents, and on and on and on. So like Bob is the creation of thousands upon thousands of years of breeding and evolution to present him. Then his life has molded him into what he is and got him to the point where he created that piece of art. So that piece of art is balanced on a mountain of thousands of years of existence and experience, culture, you know, culture, climate, war, everything that went into the creation of the specific identity of Bob. And then Bob sat down and wrote a short script, right? And now this could be anything. This could be any work of art. This could be any song. This is why, like, I've gotten to that point in my life where I don't like to dismiss anything. I try to give everything a chance because I know how much is behind it. And if I watch something and I find out that it's all just generated, then it just feels like it's corporate trash. It doesn't feel like there's anything behind it. And I lose interest. Now, the trick will be, like, once they've created stuff that you can't tell, to then test yourself and be like, okay, will I know? I don't know if I'll know. But the second that I know, I lose interest. So what is it? I don't know. I don't want to use the word. I don't want to use the word soul because that's very like charged statement. It doesn't mean what I think it means. It's just more so that idea that when there's people behind it, there's more there. There's more going on. And this is the whole thing. Like, when we read about movies, right? One of the things we like about movies is how they, Lord of the Rings, right? The Fellowship. I've watched as much about that movie being made as that movie itself. I am sometimes more fascinated by how they made that movie. And the way it came to be. A movie is a complicated, interesting human experience that occurs. That's why, and going back the trivia that we watch about things. What I mean? It's like it's the fascinating story of why movies happen, how movies happen. What did the studio do? What did the director do? It's all these things, and I worry that we're getting to a point where you're going to have this very antiseptic approach to movies where no human has anything to do with it. And honestly, the more inhuman the art becomes, I think the more inhuman I think it'll make us to some degree. And I also think that the art will diverge. I think that you will get this thing where people will start to see a difference between human and generated art. You almost start looking for the imperfections. I mean, they've always said that one of the fascinating things about humans and why it's so hard for computers to generate them sometimes, it is the imperfections that make people. You know, Sometimes the imperfection is oddly the perfection. So,
well, then the question becomes: if you keep identifying the imperfections, won't it start building those in?
yeah,
Won't it
no,
start
that's
generating
and that is
imperfections?
the test. The test will be when we encounter something that we don't know, and then you'll have to they'll have to be like a Voight comp. What is it? Yeah, what is it called? A Voight comp test, where they're going to test you. Be like,
Yeah, it
okay,
was
we're
one
going to
comp.
Voight comp. Yeah, we're going to show you 5 short films. Right? You don't know which of these is AI generated, and you just tell how much you like the 5 of these. Right? And then, afterwards they'll get your information and then they'll tell you which five were real and weren't real, and you have to decide. And yeah, listen, we may get to a point in existence where it doesn't matter. We may be old men looking back going, I remember when people made movies. But I guess I'm looking at this going, you can only take so much away from people before people stop giving a shit. You know what I mean? Like it's part of you can't make a consumer only culture. Unless you're going to give people free money, you can't have a totally consumer based culture because people need to make money and people need to do something with themselves. So this idea that we're going to give AI all the art jobs and just make art for consumption, then you sit there and go, yeah, but who the fuck is eating it? Who is consuming this art if all the people who were originally making the money from those jobs are gone? Like this is that weird thing where like they keep producing more and more and more and more expensive things for a poorer and poorer population that cannot afford it. You know? And art is one of those things. It's like art has always been slave to the individual, the person who then creates it. Well, if you figure out how you can steal the art away from society, away from people, that's ideally what they want. Artists have always been tough to deal with, and they're annoying. I mean, the absolute shit of artists with their personalities and their codes, moral vision of things, not wanting to just make the art you want them to make, not being willing to just write whatever it is you tell them to write. Those sons of bitches. And that's exactly what, big money wants. They want this idea that we can get the art and we don't have to deal with these pesky people. But then who is that art for? And for a while, I think it will be consumed. I think people will consume it. But then at some point, you are going to get to this tipping point where, it's the only thing, the guy who did the Universe 25 experiment with the rats, he said that one of the only things he thought that separated humans from rats was our creativity and our imagination, right? And the question becomes, if you destroy any financial outlet for creativity and imagination, do you then try to tip the human race into that, Universe 25 culture sink? Or is it enough that the rest of us are still going to do it anyway? Is that enough? Like if and my theory, I hope, is that it will still make art. Because it's the whole, for many, 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 many years, you didn't make any money on your art, right? But you still made it. You still put it out there, right? I mean, and then eventually you got clients. But for a long time, if you never made money on your art, you were still going to do it, right?
I was, and I would, but that's also. There's an interesting thought to have within that because I have the ability, I have the time to do it as something that isn't making money. But if people have less work and are scrambling for more and more
No,
jobs or have to
hold
do
on.
multiple jobs, you know what
I
I
have
mean?
a flip for you,
Yeah.
all right? Because I have an answer for you.
Yeah.
So my mother, when she came
Sure.
to this country, she barely spoke the language and she was basically starving, right?
Yeah.
But she was a painter. And when she got her practically 9 to 9 retail job, she had a minuscule budget. And she used to tell me that her her groceries for the week for a very long time, or her budget for the week was essentially, was it a head of lettuce, a pack of eggs, a bottle of vodka, and all the rest of her money went
Yeah.
to paint supplies. And she didn't
Yeah.
think she was going to make it big. She probably should have spent the money on something else, but she wanted to paint. It felt like the right thing for her to do. And I think that's my response to you, which is essentially there are people out there who are going to create art even when it's difficult for themselves. You
Yeah,
know?
and I don't think that will go away. But I also think that if it's an interesting thing to think about, because if the future is going to be that anything that I produce, I have to keep secret.
Ooh.
I mean, I probably would still do
Ooh.
it, but I wouldn't do it as much, and I wouldn't do some of the stuff I do now
Oh, because
because
the idea is the second you put it out there, someone will just pump it into an AI
that's what I'm
logarithm.
saying.
Oh man,
So
I didn't even
why should
consider
somebody
that's
else make money off my labor?
wow, that is a frightening vision of the future, isn't it? That you
Well,
can
I
only
mean, isn't
show it
that
to
it
like
though?
I mean, yeah, you're right. You're right. You can but I don't know. I mean that
I'm not
I
now.
s-
That's not to say I wouldn't make art, but I would probably basically like text it to you and
I
show my
still
wife
don't
and my
believe
mom, and that's it.
an AI system can replicate a person's art. I think it can.
But it doesn't. Okay, that's not the replication. Isn't my problem. I don't
Yeah,
care about the replication part. If it's going to go into a system that others profit for, and I know that's happening, whether I
yes,
can see my
yeah,
art in it or not, I don't
yeah,
care.
yeah. It's
Why
like
should I
that
give somebody else free art?
they'll still make money off of it. They'll be like, ha ha
Yeah.
ha, we've got your
For,
art.
I'll
Fuck
give
you.
you an example. I'll give you a very not that I have any indication this is happening. There's nothing I've seen that indicates this, as far as I know. But if next year I suddenly saw that Magic made 40 stained glass cards that looked an awfully lot like the ones I made, and they were selling them, there's a part of me that would sit there and go, huh, did they feed my work into that and just generate variations?
Yeah,
And it would
yeah,
make me not want to post anything that looked like that because
yeah,
I'd want them to come to me, and they probably wouldn't because they have a machine that can do it now.
yeah,
And I'm somebody who's not surviving on my art. There are people who
yeah,
do.
yeah.
And
This
if
is
suddenly
just,
there's stuff that looks very close to theirs,
and this is why it's a slippery slope. Yeah,
yeah.
yeah.
So so would I
And
stop
this is
creating?
why
No, but
my hard position on this, right, is I will not pay for any AI art. I
yeah,
don't.
I
I
really
will.
don't either.
Yeah,
And I don't utilize it really in the stuff that I have that has it. Like,
yeah,
like Adobe's now forcing people to, well, they're defaulting people into an AI heavy subscription plan. And I'm going to opt out of that because I don't use their tool sucks. I mean, it sucks partially because they are attempting to do it ethically. So I have to give them credit within
I
my
mean, listen.
criticism.
What's the end goal?
Well, that depends who you ask. See, all right. There's two parts to the AI dominant future. One which
Yeah,
I'm totally in support of, and one which I'm very, very skeptical of. The one I'm totally in support of is the one that's invisible, more or less. The one that will sit there with a what do you call it, an oncologist, and analyze scans and pick up a cancer detection that the doctor missed, or
yeah,
whatever.
and then immediate alert your insurance company to drop you, right?
Well, okay, that's a secondary effect, but the primary thing is that it's identified one way or another, or it sees something in
Yeah,
a wall of pattern data that a human just because of fatigue or whatever missed, and it can
yeah,
analyze it, and it makes it where something is picked up more
yeah,
effectively. I'm all for that.
yeah.
Now, yes, is there a downside to that? Sure, of course.
Oh yeah,
Insurance companies can then.
pre-crime becomes a thing at that point. Logically,
Well,
we've
yeah,
discovered that you're
it's already a thing.
yeah,
They already have that, so that's
yeah.
already being done. So AI will not bring that in. It's already being
No,
done.
it'll just make it worse.
Yeah, well, it'll just make it more quotes around the word efficient. Okay, but that already existed before
Yeah,
this
no,
gold
yeah.
rush of it. So, will there be a negative effect?
I
Yes,
under,
but
and the
that
thing
is
I
one where,
understand that idea, that thing of making things better.
and that's the
I
part that I like. Yes, that I
yeah.
am all for. Do as
It's
much
the
as you
other,
can with that because
it's the other part.
well, what you're talking about is the human creativity element, the artistic generation, the writing, the music, all of that. And that's what is the AI slop, which is a great term. I love that term. That's the current term, and I think it's great. AI slop. And that's where it is going to, I think, discourage people when they see, Google, for instance, announced their pricing for like this VO3 tool. It's $200 and something a month to use it. That's for their full bore, all the features, do everything you want, right?
Yeah, and man, it uses so much power.
Well, the environmental impacts are almost their own discussion. But let's say there weren't any. That still doesn't matter.
Yeah.
That's not the primary thing you're wrestling
Okay.
with. Again, don't get me wrong. I agree. I don't think that there's the benefit for the cost when it comes to that side of it. When it comes to screening for cancer, yes, because if you don't find it till stage 4 and you have to go in the hospital, that's costing the insurance, all of us, because it was caught late. You catch it early and stop it, that's great because that saves everything in the long run. That, I think, is an argument for, yes, this is worth
but again,
the energy use, all that.
That's not getting rid of people's jobs. That's making people's jobs work better.
Yeah. And that's what I'm saying. That side of it, no problems. That's one where I'm generally in support of it, unless, like the insurance company, but you could have laws saying that you can't use it for that. That can be solved. The other side is the creative side. And that's where I think you are going to see, and already are seeing, people who are going to just give up because there are any number of reasons, but one could literally just be because they don't have the time for it anymore, or they're disillusioned by the fact that they see a company like Google making $200 a month times X customers, and they know that there's a very good chance that artwork they've posted somewhere is part of that. Now, it may only account, let's say they make $1 billion a year on it. That person's art may only account for $5, but you know what? It's $5 of their labor that has been sucked up and evaporated into nothing in their mind.
Yeah, and
some people are going to more viscerally react to that than I will.
And clients are less likely to go to some sort of artist to do the job if they can get a tool that'll do it easily for them as far as they're concerned.
Or if the artist is afraid to post their work because it'll be sucked up and
no
copied,
one can see it. Yeah,
they can't find them.
Yeah.
So it's a multiplier detrimental effect.
Yeah.
So I don't know what it looks like. I worry that now they're already, I've said this a lot of times in different forms. It's already extraordinarily hard for somebody to actually make a living being a creative professional, and it's only going to get harder.
Yep.
And what sucks also, to the detriment of just people in general, is, if we see that there is, maybe they'll start having paywalled art sites where, an AI can't penetrate it, although I don't know how you wouldn't just buy a paid account, put your AI into it, and let it suck it all up anyway.
Yeah, exactly.
I don't know how you defeat all that. But if you want to go find human art, and there's less and less and less of it, it's detrimental to you as well, because all this AI slop, no matter how realistic it is, it all looks vaguely the same.
It does.
There's no real variation to it.
It has a look to it. Yeah. There is a
highly saturated colors or black and white. It's the only way there is. Nothing in between.
A thing I was writing about a while back in one of my stories about it's not an AI, but it's basically a person who's in a generated state. They're basically a brain in the box, and they create a max headroom version of themselves, right? But they're one of many clones of an original. And every time they meet a new clone, they alter their max headroom avatar to look more average to what they all look like. And one of the characters who's friends with him doesn't have the heart to tell him that every time he changes his average, he's really just making himself look like the original.
Yeah.
And it's that I like that idea of people not realizing the things they're doing. But yes, a lot of it looks the same. And the thing is, I think we're going to get to I hope we're going to get to an element in all this where you're going to have people who just want it done by humans, who are always going to sit there and go, you know what? I want a human involved in this. I know that I could go to an AI to talk to about my medical problems, but I still think I want a person. Because the theory is that a human will actually give a shit. Well, now maybe we're heading for a future where humans don't give a shit. Honestly, maybe that's the end goal of AI, is creating a culture where people are so disconnected from each other that we behave like machines toward each other. We just don't
Yeah.
give a shit.
Yeah.
And that's, I mean, I said to you a while back, I don't want to go back to this, but I said to you a while back that maybe we're in a slow apocalypse. That maybe this is like just the softest end of the world that we could have. I don't know.
I don't either. I like I said, I
But you
find
know
it
what?
interesting
Listen,
that people are imitating the AIs. I think that's just
I
funny.
will say this. This is still, I'm going to use the kind of a backwater term, but I still think this is a first world problem because I think there's plenty of places in the world that don't have the bandwidth or the internet, or they just don't give a shit because they have other things going on.
Well,
And
okay,
people,
it is a first world problem, but it has global implications. That's the
yeah.
problem. So you can't just silo it off into that and say,
Well,
well,
the thing
nobody
is, if
outside the
you
first
try
world
to
cares.
absorb another culture's art, right? Isn't the problem still the averaging of your system? Because you said yourself, a lot of it just ends up looking the same. So you're never going to create a specific look to a person or place, because it's always going to be the art. Let's say you like Moroccan art, and you're like, well, I want to plug Moroccan art into our system, where it's like, yeah, but you're still running it through Moroccan art plus your system, which has all this other shit already kind of in it. You just keep watering it down. You're never
Well,
going to
okay,
get.
yeah, actually, that's a really good example of the kind of the dual nature of this, where there's a plus and a minus. So what you're talking about is absolutely that the homogenization of everything, the just the gray gooification of culture.
Yeah.
Maybe that's a show title. Gray gooification of culture, because that's kind of a nifty one. But that's just a placeholder. But there's another side to that. I was thinking
Yeah.
about this, which is actually an argument for it. But again, in the more clinical, general benefit side, which is there was some, I cannot remember, I think it's Arapaho maybe. There was one of these first people languages, and one of the oldest people who spoke it fluently died in the last
Yeah.
2 weeks.
Yeah.
And if that person had been able to put that language into to use a Jedi term, like a datacron crystal or whatever, that all the younger
Yeah.
members could talk to and learn,
Yep.
that's beneficial. That's preserving
It is,
a
yeah.
culture. Not selling it, but preserving it. That's an argument for it, where I'm like, yes, that's what I want to see the investment in, but that doesn't make any
No,
money.
because they're not going to build all this shit just so they can preserve a Native American tribe they really wanted to just run off the land in the first place.
And that is fundamentally why, on balance, I don't like this stuff, is because the people in charge are profit driven.
But that's the
not
problem.
human driven.
The entire thing. The what will destroy the human race is profit driven. It's the fact
great,
that, I mean, did you read about how United Health's shareholders are suing the company? And I got to look this up. I found two sources, but I need to find at least 3 or 4. They're suing the company supposedly because after the assassination of the CEO, the company was afraid to basically like turn lots of people away. So they let all these claims go through that they probably wouldn't have, and then sales dropped quite a bit. And so the shareholders are like, wait a minute, we didn't know that would happen. We're suing you for the money that we should have made. Now, this is one of those...
I do see it on CBS News, so I hope it's correctly sourced.
Okay, there you go. Yeah, so how fucked up is that? We, the shareholder, are angry with the company because when their CEO was killed, they were afraid to make vicious decisions and let people's claims go through, and we lost money on it. Now we're going to sue the company because they should have been cocksuckers, even in the face of execution.
Well, okay, but hold on.
Yeah,
I'm going to play devil's avocado here because we're in a capitalist society. Or a capitalist country, sorry, not society.
No.
Well,
I know where you're going with this. They have the right.
No, not the right.
Yeah.
The company is, in fact, legally compelled to generate money for the shareholders.
Yeah.
If they do not, or if they take actions that seem in contradiction, they're in breach of their legal responsibility.
Yeah, so how can we possibly survive in the face of that?
Oh, I agree. I
I
don't know.
mean, we earlier I said about AI, what's the end goal? What's the end goal here? These are companies that want to endlessly grow in what is a finite system. You can't have infinite growth in a finite system. That's madness. That's the end of your. This is that paperclip story with the AI that they say make paperclips, and then eventually it turns the entire planet into paperclips and kills everybody because it didn't say
Yeah.
to sell or
Yeah.
any other control. Just make paperclips. If your
Yeah.
only goal is to make paper money, right?
Yeah.
But then at some point or another, you have to realize there's no culture for you there's nothing for you to do with it. It's like me coming to you and saying, Joe, I'm going to give you $1 billion, right? You're going to be a billionaire, but I'm going to put you on a desert island, and you'll get food, and that's it. But you'll have $1 billion, and it's like, well, that's basically what you're doing by killing the culture, by killing the planet, by killing society, by making it so that everybody's just enslaved and the world goes to shit. Well, where are you going to spend that money? What are you going to do with it?
Yeah. Yeah.
You know? Yeah,
Yeah.
I think we're headed for something, and I don't know what it is.
Bad stuff. We're heading
Yeah,
for bad stuff.
we're headed for something. Yeah,
However,
and yep.
as so we don't all just doom and gloom it, I did want to bring up something that I think is potentially.
Yeah.
Well, I mean, it's going to be a lot of bad because it's all bad. But I got into a beta of something potentially interesting that I think is actually something I have been waiting for somebody to create, and this seems to be the goal. Whether it'll work or not, of course, is trickier. But people talk a lot. You hear the term "everything app" a lot, which is usually a bunch of BS. But one thing I have wanted is a kind of consolidating a way to take any type of social media I engage in, as well as news sources of different types, and just put them all together so I could just open one app and not 5 or whatever. And there is an app that I'm using. It's still in beta. It's still definitely got its rough edges, but it seems to have this in mind. It's called Surf. I think it's called Surf. Well, I've seen 2 different names for it. There's Surf Social or Surf.
So
Yeah, the company's just called Surf.
run this by me again. Why do you want to consolidate all this?
Because I just want to open one app, but I want to have control of what's in it. So
Okay,
this is basically instead of
I would never want to consolidate. I like to keep everything as spread out and fucking separate as possible.
well, okay, each of the individual things is in fact still individual. It doesn't actually merge the accounts.
Okay.
What it does is it creates an aggregator of all the things you want into one place.
Yeah, so you just want an aggregator that you have control of.
Yeah, and that's what this is aiming to be, and seems to be work. So what I was able to do is I put in my Blue Sky login and imported that feed. Now I still have Blue Sky separate, still my account, still its own thing.
Yeah.
I took my Mastodon account, still its own thing, but I put it in here and said, okay, put anything that shows up there, mirror it here. Then I pulled in my Flipboard stuff. I started looking at other people I follow and feeds that they were creating, meaning that, all right, this person follows, I don't know, BBC, Radio 1, also Mixmag, whatever.
It's a social media aggregator.
Well, it's not just that.
Okay,
You could just go to like CBS News. Let's say you just wanted science information from CBS News because you like the reporter that's there. You could add that as a source. You could say, I just want anything that shows up on CBS Science News, come in here. And it puts it there. And you just have it all in one thing. And you can separate it. You could say, okay, I want a science feed. I want an art feed. I'm not doing that. I just want it all in one so that I can just kind of scrub through it and just look for anything interesting and be able to mark it and say, all right, read later, whatever. But again, it's in beta. I don't know what the final form is going to look like. So
I appreciate that you're looking for something like this and that you've possibly found it.
Yeah.
This is not a technology that I can get behind because I just feel like it centralizes things, and at the second, it's the whole Kusanagi thing. You over specialize and you breed in weakness. I feel like when you centralize, I feel like you breed in weakness. To me, right? But I also, you know, I liked having to
But
go to different sites and do different things. So I feel like the
oh, okay, well,
going,
if you enjoy that, see, to me that's a time waster. I want to
uh,
be able to select what I
the
want and then say fold it into one, and I know where if I need to go to that thing, I still can. And I
the
have all my
act
stuff
of
there.
doing is part of the point of it.
Well, you're still okay. Let's say you saw a news thing come up. If you tap on it, you're still going to that site. You're
Oh
not
no,
staying there. You're jumping out.
I get it. I get it.
Yeah.
Yeah, and I understand the technology, and I think it's great that you have found something that does it. It seems like it gives you control. My worry with those things is they're always one step away from being bought and turned into fucking,
And no, your concern is valid, and that's why what I like about it is it doesn't turn off anything else. It just collects it. So if they decide tomorrow that they're gonna, if Musk buys it and says now it's my new Nazi.social, I delete my account and everything is still where I left it. There's nothing that has been lost. It's all still
Yeah.
there.
Hey,
It doesn't
listen,
change,
if
alter,
if
delete,
it's a
or take control
no
of anything.
if it's a no loss aggregator, then good for
It
you.
is.
I'm
Yeah.
glad.
It's the same people who did Flipboard, but they wanted to make an app version of that
Yeah.
that could. Flipboard was restricted to. It really was because of the way it was constructed. It was purely for news feeds.
Yeah.
But they've recognized that for a lot of people, and I'm one of these people because I follow a lot of artists on Blue Sky. Well, that's not a news feed. I can't find a news. And honestly, most of the art sites get bought faster than anything anyway. Like DeviantArt is just a shithole now. And
Oh
so
my
any
God,
place
it's
these,
so bad. Yeah.
it's bad. And so now I can take a person I follow and put them in here directly and they show up. And that way, I don't have to worry about the fact that Flipboard doesn't have artists.
Yeah.
I can have Flipboard and the artists all in one thing. So again, it does not, because I'm the same as you. I'm like, I'm not letting this thing take over anything. It just is basically
Yeah,
going out and pulling it from the places I want
you're
it from and putting it
you're
in one
still
place.
social. I think that's the other part too, is that you still have social media where I've
Well,
gone back
because a
to
lot of artists don't show
Oh
up
no,
anywhere
no,
else.
I get
You know?
that. I've just pulled back again. You know, yeah, I kind of came out a little bit, and then the world was like, blah, and I was like, nah, I'm good. I'm back. I'm back in my hole. I'm fine. I tried
No, I
to.
get that, but
I still listen. I still try to find art through other means, right? I'm just not social about it. Nor do I want to be social about it.
well, like I
And
said, the thing that's tough is that if you don't have some kind of, at least I have found artists that I know there's no other way I
how
would have
much
found them.
art do you feel the need to consume on a regular basis?
Oh, daily. I want to look at. I want most of my day to be experiencing the art of others in between
Okay,
work and
so you
stuff.
have a massive appetite for just continuously new art.
Oh, absolutely.
Yeah, see,
Yeah,
I'm the
my feeds are
yeah.
mostly just artists, and what's great is that a lot of them are like me, where they're trying to highlight other artists that they don't
If
think people know about.
if I had something that was coming in that fast, I'd be taking nibbles of everything but absorbing none of it. And that's where I like where I'm at because I find things slowly and methodically, and I have time to really absorb and kind of contemplate stuff because it's coming in so slowly. And then and I sometimes I'll find an artist or find something that I like, and I have time to really sort of play with it, and I have time to be bored, which I think is good too. I find that turning on the tap that to that degree for me, I just drown in it. I'd rather run a little light. I mean, and I appreciate the fact that you are a visual artist and you want far more. You want to be awash in it. That's great. But yeah, I couldn't do that. It's the opposite of what I want. I want things to come in
Well, one
slow.
thing I do that a lot of people don't do is I don't have alerts turned on for anything.
Oh,
So
no,
I am
never.
not bombarded. When I have those in between times, I'll sit there and I'll look
Why?
at it. Okay,
God, why does anyone have alerts on? Jesus, for that kind of
well,
stuff.
because a lot of people want that constant stimulation. I'm like you. I have times where I just want to sit there and look up into the air. And so if I have alerts off, I can do that and I don't have to worry about it. But there are people who will have an alert for every time somebody posts something new.
Yeah.
that's friend of a friend of a friend. No, 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 no. No,
Yeah.
turn all that. That's all off. The only time I get an alert for anything is if somebody sends me a message directly. That's it. Otherwise, it doesn't
You
happen.
know what?
So
When my children get old enough to use smartphones, that I will have some sort of thing that they can kind of cut through, and their messages will always get to me.
yeah,
What's
no,
funny is
that's
I
what I
don't
have.
even
My
I
thing when it's silenced only lets maybe 10 people through, and you're one of them, and that's it. Everybody else gets silenced.
There you go. Yeah. So I get what you're saying about, having that kind of wanting to be able to attune the tap to give you what you want and to make it more convenient. I get it. It's
Yeah.
just not. I don't need that speed.
Well, like I said, nobody has done something like this before
Yeah.
without trying to take over what you have.
Yeah.
And the guy behind this, I don't remember his name, but I'd seen an interview, and he specifically is trying to not be like that, where he's not
Well,
trying to
listen,
take
they
over things.
always try in the beginning till
Well,
they
and
get
that's where I'm
bought.
sitting. But if they are able to do like a subscription, I would pay it if it
Yeah.
meant they could stay independent. I'd be like, okay,
Yeah.
I'll
That's the thing.
support that.
Everything starts out great. You
Well, of
know?
course. Right. No, I agree. No,
Yeah.
and that's what I'm saying is because this thing doesn't have any ownership lock, if
Yeah.
it goes sour, I delete it and nothing happens. Nothing.
Yeah.
So that's what I want. And a lot of apps don't do that. A lot of them are trying to take over or manage. That's
Man,
why
you know-
I don't ever sign in with Google. Don't ever sign in with app. Don't ever sign in with anything. Just make a friggin' account for that thing. Because the minute you say sign in with, if something happens to that root sign in thing, you're fucked. So don't do it. Do never, ever use sign in with anything. Create an account with a password, independent, file it somewhere in a password manager, and that way you can never be screwed. Well, by the sign in authority. Let's put it that way.
Yeah, they'll always find a way to screw you.
Well, the companies, you know what? If you're going to get screwed direct. Kind of like in life. Be
Oh, there you go.
screwed
Get
directly by
screwed
whatever the
direct.
screw
Yeah.
is.
That's a great T-shirt right
Maybe that's
there.
the show. There's the show title. Get screwed direct. Get screwed direct.
I find of late that they talk about, oh, we have all these games now you can play on iPads and iPhones, and it's amazing. And I kind of looked around, and unless it's a game that's been directly kind of ported over, right? So like the game that came out before Baldur's Gate 3 is now playable on the iPad. And I was kind of curious to be like how that works on the iPad. Because I was like,
That Divinity Original Sin one?
yeah,
that we
yeah.
were
I was like,
talking
because
about?
you know what, that would
Yeah.
be a neat game to have on there for like, if you're on a plane or something like that, like because that's a really involved game. So it'd be like,
Sure,
that'd be
yeah,
neat
yeah.
to play, right? But I find a lot of the games that are designed for iPads and iPhones and things like that, they're just fucking like money grabs. Like you go into the game and you can't fucking do anything without them being like, give us some money. Hey, you could buy this bonus, and they like essentially just like bombard you
Yes.
with ads
Yeah.
and try to strong arm you into a situation where you're so aggravated that you're like, I'll just buy the bonus. Like didn't Ubisoft get in trouble for this with like the Greek Assassin's
One
Creed?
of the European country, yeah, there was a bunch of stuff like, the Ubisoft has gotten in trouble multiple times. The problem is they don't get in trouble enough.
Yeah,
They're
so
never
it's like,
hurt by the trouble, therefore they don't care.
yeah. So I look at these games and I'm like, okay, you know what, guys, I don't need you. I'm good. It's like,
Yeah.
whatever. And it's not even that the games themselves aren't fun. It's that they are like somebody sat there and said they were designed from the how can we make the most possible money rather than how can we make an entertaining game. Listen, I'll pay for your entertaining game.
Yeah.
But when you're like, it's free, but we're going to try and suck money out of you at every possible fucking moment. It's like, no, I don't need that endless advertising.
Right.
The machinations
nobody wants
of,
that, really.
of frustrating me so that I'll break and buy your bonuses.
Yeah.
And fucking Grand Theft Auto Online was like that towards the end there.
Yeah.
Where like anything you wanted to do, they're like, well, you just need millions of dollars to do this, and you're like, really? It's like, so I'm gonna have to run dailies for like fucking months
Uh-huh.
just so we can play a few missions with this thing. It's like, oh fuck you,
Right.
man. Like, I'm
Yep.
not looking forward to the new GTA Online. I'm sure it'll look pretty.
I'm not either.
No, but if it's got genuinely good gameplay that we can enjoy, right? Then let's see how bad it is. But the fact that they postponed the game a year so they could make it just right. It's like, okay, you guys want to,
I
yeah.
I don't think even if it's great, I'm gonna be interested because they're banding about that it's gonna be an $100 game. You know what? Nah,
If I
it
found
won't be
out
different
that we
enough.
could play the whole game co-op together, I'd buy it for you. Because there's not a lot of good co-op games out there anymore. Even if we do have to play as man and wife, that'd be weird. But most likely it's not going to be because their
I
online
would
is
tell you
their.
not to do that because I don't think you should reward that. And I think if you do that, you encourage more of it. So I would say
Hey,
we'll play something
if
else we've
that's
played
hey,
before.
if that's your argument, I can stand behind that. Don't
Yeah,
support it.
I mean, we can always play Baldur's Gate 3 for the 80th time, and we'll
So,
whatever.
hey,
You know,
to be fair, we've only played it twice. Come on.
well, don't forget, by the time Grand Theft Auto 6 comes out, we may have played it 79 more times. I don't know. Who knows how long it'll be delayed? So it's possible.
No, the problem
But
is
what I'm saying is,
you gotta forget. You gotta wait long enough to forget, so that you don't just walk in the room and go, I know what we're doing.
yeah, I don't know. I agree.
Yeah.
But we can always go back to
But no, listen.
games
If your
we can
argument is don't
replay.
support that, don't encourage it, then I can
Yes,
stand behind that.
that would be my main argument.
No, absolutely.
I
Then
would.
then, yeah.
That's bad.
Yeah,
Because
absolutely.
I guarantee you, nothing in that game is going to be worth $100. I don't care if it's co-op or not. If that's the base game, and you know it won't be, because of course there's always 80 things they bolt on.
Yeah.
No, no, no. You know what? The idea of games just getting more and more expensive because you can see the
God.
reflection of your ass cheeks through your jeans on a mirror. No, I'm sorry. It's over
this-
with. I don't care.
Is this what like getting old is? Where like you basically watch the culture go a certain way, and you look at it and you go, "Guys, why are you doing that?" Like I do wonder if my parents.
I don't think it's that. I
No?
don't think it's that.
Okay.
I think because what we're talking about is not new. This is where it's always been going. We're at the end stages of it where we're really seeing the effects very visibly. But this is not new. You know, there have always been add-ons and upsells. That stuff's not new. It just wasn't video games because they didn't exist when our parents were young. They didn't have these video games.
Yeah.
But they went into a car dealership and they were like, "Hey, do you want power windows? Only $100 more. Hey, would you like your headlights to actually self-clean and have little windshield wipers on them? $100 more.
No, except
leather seats, $300.
In today's age, it's more like, oh, you want seats with that? Well, you want any seats with your car? That'll be extra. Like, I mean, that's what Apple does now, right? Where they're like, hey, remember all those ports you used to have? We got rid of them. If you want them, you can buy some dongles.
There is nothing really new about this. It's just the ripple effects are now so. It's kind of like where there's you get those minor kind of pre-shock earthquakes where you just feel a little shaking, and then the big one
Yeah.
is where the ground turns into waves.
Yeah.
Well, the early stuff was, I mean, really, enshittification itself is not new. When flying by plane was new and they needed people to adopt it, you got everything for the ticket price, man. And
now
then
it's a
once people
fucking
needed
mess,
it, there's nothing new about any of this stuff. It's just that we're seeing it now because I was listening to a report about how the inequality gap is now the most severe it's been in human history. Not meaning that because the consolidation of wealth has.
Are you saying it's worse than when there was royalty?
Yes, because
Whoa.
the amount of it makes sense because in terms of the amount of wealth's consolidation is even compared to royalty is more severe when you look at how many people don't have. So yes, royalty, but there wasn't. Royalty is now rich people, whereas before royalty was royalty. Yeah. That's the difference.
Yeah,
now
it's
wealth.
The lords and barons are the oligarchs. Yeah.
Yeah, there were only so many kings because there were only so many countries.
And you got to wonder
now.
You got to wonder how much media can you throw at them? How scared do you get about a French Revolution? You know, you got to wonder.
Well, I think that CEO getting assassinated certainly had to make him think.
How much free shit do you suddenly decide to try and give people in the hopes that they'll forget about perhaps, oh God. You know what? I heard a really great joke. It's one of the better ones I've heard in a while, which was why do rich people want to go to space? Any
I'm
ideas?
listening. I'm waiting. Oh no, 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 I have no idea.
Because you need gravity to use a guillotine.
Oh, that is good. I like that. Yeah, yeah.
Oh
Of
man,
course,
yeah.
the other side of that is I can throw a knife at you and it will never lose its inertia until it hits you.
No, that's also
So
true.
there is another side to that.
But yeah,
You
so
know.
it's yeah, you sit there and say, no one's kind of looking at the end goal. No one's sitting saying, well, what do we as a human culture, where does this go? Well, I'll tell you where it went in France. I mean,
Yeah,
that's why the French Revolution is so fascinating. I mean,
yeah.
uh, it was so fascinating that even in its own time, it scared the shit out of everybody. It scared the shit out of the US, and they'd just shaken off the British to become their own country. But, it was a
Well,
bunch of rich land-owning guys that basically wanted their own country and shook off the
and see
British. And
this
yeah,
this is the thing I'm curious about. So let's the French
yeah,
Revolution is a good example. I don't know how many years from when things started to get bad, whatever that means
yeah.
in relevance to the French Revolution, to the guillotine. How many years?
Oh, I hold. Okay, so basically, what happened was, they had they were like any other country in Europe, right? They had a king, they had a
Sure.
queen, right?
Okay.
But there was a they had a series of events happen that basically made it so that people realized food was tight, money was tight, and the rich were so rich that they didn't see any of it. I'm pretty sure there was a famine. I haven't done my French Revolution history in a while. It's been a number of years since I read that book, but I do remember there was essentially like nothing for the people to eat, and there were many rabble rousers that were like, hey, fuck the king and fuck the rich, and it built. I mean, this is something that built up over years, right? And I can't remember now off the top of my head what was the thing that put it over. But this is the whole thing when they told Marie Antoinette that the people were starving, and she was so kind of disconnected that she was like, well, let them eat cake, like oh, everybody's got cake. Like, why don't they have cake? Like,
Okay,
just some.
so but was this something that took 50 years, 100 years, not from the acceleration, but from where it started? Because I
What do you?
think
Okay, so
what I'm
once it started, how quickly did they get to the guillotine?
no, but I mean, okay, the French Revolution. What were the initial roots of it? Was it the monarchy, its establishment of the monarchy itself, or was there actions that were taken? And the reason I'm asking is, in this country, in America, the
Yeah.
United States, we tend to overestimate the age of this country. We tend to think we've been
Oh
around for
yeah,
a
we
lot
yeah
longer than
yeah
we
yeah
have been.
yeah.
And so when you say, well, when is it going to be the guillotine?
All right,
We
hold on.
might be on track. You know
No,
what
no,
I
hold
mean? We
on.
might
I'm
be
I'm
right
I'm
in the slot.
I'm going to
So,
read the wiki because the wiki gives a
yeah,
better
okay.
explanation than
Sure.
I can, and I wanted to
Okay.
make sure it get so the
Hopefully,
cause.
hopefully, asterisk, hopefully. Go
Yeah,
ahead.
I know. If it starts talking about purple bunnies or something like that, so the
Without
cause of
checking all our sources, everybody.
yeah,
Go
no,
ahead.
look, I'm using wiki as a very loose subject, like
Just
source
making
here.
sure we're clear about that.
Yeah,
So,
yeah,
yeah,
yeah. I'm
go.
not saying, yeah, by all means, go find a journal article, go find a book, go find this. But for the sake of this show, we're just looking for a quick blurb.
To the
That
best
is
of our instant knowledge,
yes. The
comma.
cause of the revolution were a combination of social, political, and economic factors which the old regime proved unable to manage. A financial crisis and widespread social distress led to the convocation of the Estate General in May 1789, its first meeting since 1614. The representatives of the Third Estate broke away and reconstituted themselves as a National Assembly in June. The storming of the Bastille in Paris on 14th of July was followed by radical measures by the Assembly, among them the abolition of feudalism, state control over the church, and a declaration of rights. The next 3 years were dominated by a struggle for political control. King Louis attempted flight to Varennes in June 1791, further discredited the monarchy. Well, the fact that he tried to escape, yeah, and then military defeats after the outbreak of the French Revolutionary Wars in April 1792 led to an armed insurrection on August 10th, 1792. The monarchy was replaced by the French First Republic in September, and Louis was executed in January 1793. So shit started in 1789, and the king was dead by
Well,
1793.
I would argue no, that actually it was. This is you point out exactly what I was getting at. So you
Yeah.
said that meeting hadn't happened since what, 1619?
Yeah. Yeah. This
So the
was
last of those meetings
the
was
third estate.
100
Yeah.
plus years prior.
Yeah.
So that means, in my mind, that took a lot longer than just, okay, shit got bad, they executed the king. No, no, no. If they hadn't had to have one of
Yeah.
these
And hold
meetings
on.
for over 100 years, it's
Let me
been
read
building.
let me read the next part of you, for you, just for completionariness.
Sure,
After
sure.
another revolt in June 1793, the Constitution was suspended, and political power passed from the National Convention to the Committee of Public Safety, dominated by radical Jacobins, led by Maximilien Robespierre. About
Robespierre.
16
Oh, sure. I know that name.
about 16,000 people were sentenced by the Revolutionary Tribunal and executed in the Reign of Terror, which ended in July
Ooh.
1794. So now, 1793 to 1794, they sentenced and executed 16,000 people,
Oh,
right? Weakened
yeah.
by external threats and internal opposition, the Committee of Public Safety was replaced in November 1795 by the Directory. Its instability ended in the coup of 15 Brumaire and the establishment of the Consulate with Napoleon Bonaparte as first consul. So basically, the French Revolution ended by 1795 and essentially headed for Napoleon Bonaparte taking control of the country as its, he made himself the emperor. So, yeah,
So, like I said, based on that, I
yeah,
don't know that we are not on the track for the
it's
same type of thing.
considered to have lasted for about 10 years, 6 months and 4 days all together.
Yeah.
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 But
Yeah.
that's the thing, is that these things were going on for a while,
Hmm.
and it just finally popped. And I often wonder, in every culture, what is going to be the thing that makes people pop, that makes people take to the streets, that makes people, you know, it's like the Civil War. It's like, what was the final thing? What was that moment? And the thing is, there are lots of theories,
Yeah.
but you never know what is
Yeah.
that final moment that it's that sits there that makes people just get up and move.
Well, yeah. I mean, I I would have to imagine that based on things going on now,
Yeah,
that if enough people who supported people in power
yeah.
start having people they care about dying, or
Well, I
they
mean that's
themselves
and
are
listen,
imperiled.
that's why the whole Luigi thing is so fascinating to me. Whether you
Well, not
support
only
him
that,
or
but the potential Medicaid cuts where one of these politicians said, "Well, everybody dies." So,
oh my
and
God, what a
that was
fucking
the
answer that
response.
was. Yeah. So what I'm saying is whether you support or not support the actions of a certain assassin Luigi, he was a man who was upset with the situation. He took it in his own hand, and now
Hmm.
he's gone to prison. He's waiting trial, right? And
Yeah.
the reaction is that company started putting claims through that they weren't going to put through out of fear, right? So a
Yeah.
company focused 100% on profits did something almost human out of fear because their CEO was executed.
Right.
I don't want to
Yeah.
say that, people should do bad things. Not at all. But I mean, the math on some of this stuff is starting to look too straightforward to ignore. You know,
Yeah.
it's. I mean, and this is why Cory Doctor had to come out with his short story and be like, it has nothing to do with this. It was just a short story
Yeah.
I wrote.
Right.
Which again, you should read that short story because at the end of that short story, after they've killed all these healthcare people and all these angry white men, I mean, essentially, Cory Doctorow's argument in that book is shit doesn't change until you piss off angry white men, right?
Right.
And
Right.
it's like, well, maybe that's the French Revolution. Maybe in this country, if you don't piss off angry white men, shit doesn't happen. And at some point or another, you will piss them off enough, and you can't sell them on it enough that they'll then turn their guns on you. Because listen, Luigi, white guy, handsome white guy, right? This wasn't handsome, and to my understanding, a handsome cisgender white man executed your CEO.
Yeah.
And it's like,
Yeah.
okay, well, And the thing is, like, I mean, they are really going to try to bury him. They need to make an example of him in the hopes that
Yep.
they'll scare anybody else from doing that. But I mean, it's the whole. I think Trump said it
I
at one
don't.
point.
I don't know if it's going to work.
Well, I know, but didn't Trump say something like if you do something in defense of your country, then you can't be considered a criminal or something stupid like
Yeah,
that?
yeah, something along those lines. Yes.
Yeah, and it's like, yeah, you know what? You're right. There is a point where if the laws make no sense, then, are you really wrong for taking things into your own hands? And I'm not
Well,
saying that I
that's
want anarchy. I'm not saying that I want chaos. I'm just saying that if you start looking at how things react, you
right.
know, the only thing corporations as entities seem to be afraid of is getting shot. Because legally you can't hurt them.
Well,
Monet
I mean, in the end, your money means nothing if you're dead.
Yeah, and that's the thing. Well, the not to get communist on you here, but in reality, the money itself doesn't mean anything. It's a construct we made up.
Of
We're all
course,
fighting over
absolutely.
we're all fighting over World of Warcraft gold,
Yeah.
essentially,
Oh, yeah.
in this grand
Absolutely.
MMO, and we're letting people die for it. I mean, literally, this
Yep.
is like letting people die so you can get more gold in a World of Warcraft, right?
No, it absolutely is. You're right.
And like I
No, I
remember
agree.
in oh god, so I have recently done like a brush up on my depression era shit, history of America, and I always remember there was this thing where they wanted to raise the prices of beef, right? So the government bought a bunch of cows, living, healthy cows, right? They bought them all back, they took them off the market, right? And then they just fucking killed them all. They killed thousands of cows. Now you know what? They could have fed so many people, but because they wanted to get the price of beef up for the farmers, they bought the cows. Hold on, let me see if I can find how many cows they killed because it is a ridiculous number. And it says
Oh, I don't
yeah,
doubt it.
for the sake of economy, you
Yeah.
slaughtered these animals.
Sure.
Let's see.
I have no trouble believing that. I mean, they pay farmers not to grow things now.
Yeah. No, but that's the thing is it's not even a not grow, it's a actually murder.
No, well, I mean, but that's the same. That's the same thing. It's anti-grow.
Yeah.
The
What did they
anti-grow
kill?
grew them. Yeah. No,
Do they have
of
a
course. I have
do
no
they have
trouble
a
believing that.
number for how many they killed? Oh man, I can't even get a number.
I'm sure it is a ridiculous. I have no doubt it is a ridiculous number.
Yeah. It's just
Don't doubt it at all.
I can't find it. Yeah, they were
Yeah.
they were paid, families were paid a small amount for their cows. And oh, here you go. Did
Mm.
they say? No, I can't find the actual number. Yeah. During the Great Depression, the government implemented policies to reduce livestock, including cattle, in the market. This was done to address the surplus and falling prices. In some cases, cattle were purchased and then killed or euthanized rather than going to market or providing meat for the hungry. This was part of the Agricultural Adjustment Act of 1933, which aims to stabilize agricultural prices and income. Not fucking feed people, not take care of them. Gotta
Hey,
stabilize.
man,
Yeah.
if they're not citizens, we don't care. Bye.
No, these were citizens. like,
Well,
these
were they
these
poor
were.
citizens? Then who cares? Bye.
Well, yeah, exactly.
The poor don't count.
Poor people aren't
Forget that.
citizens in this country,
No.
and that I hate. Man, it's like just saying it. It's like it feels very sort of. I don't even know. Like it just feels like something a liberal would say,
Dystopian.
but it is true.
Yeah.
So,
Yes.
yeah. Geez, you're not going to help the mood tonight, man. We just need to go to the movies. I don't think there's any saving it. Let's just get
That's
off.
fine. I talked to my
Let's get
stuff,
off
so if you
topic.
we can. All right. That's fine. Here we
Do you have
go.
do you have a review?
No, my reviews. Sorry, my reviews were the well, I had the funny thing about the VO3, and I wanted to talk about
Oh,
Surf
no, that's
Social
fine.
just in case there were people
So
who
you
are
don't have any other
so
movie?
that-
Then hit the music.
No. All right, here we go.
You shut the fuck up!
Thanks for killing my mom.
Yeah, no problem.
Fuck yes, we watched the Batman. Fucking, I love that sound so much. That was my intro.
No, that's good. That's good. I had kind of a funny experience with this because I watched the 1989 Michael Keaton Tim Burton Batman with my kids before I watched the Batman with you. Because I remember you were saying to me how this is closest to my Batman. Like, because my whole thing is I love Batman, but in the years I've become I've kind of looked away from the TV versions of Batman because though they aren't bad, they just aren't my Batman. And it's one of those things with Bale where I love Nolan's Batman movies. They're very good movies. But that's not Detective Batman. It's Ninja Batman. Because I mean he's trained by a ninja by the League of Shadows and like, he's not a dumb guy, but he's not the great detective. I mean, and I always think it's very funny that the person that they use in that movie, which is Ra's al Ghul, they use that person to turn him into a ninja. Whereas in the books, Ra's al Ghul is one of the people who's most impressed with Batman because he is so intelligent and he doesn't refer to him as Batman.
He always calls him the detective.
The great detective, yeah. So it's
the great detective. That's it. I knew there was.
So it's so fascinating. But yes, I realize that though I like those movies, it's not my Batman. And the thing is, this is always going to happen. People got always lots of different versions of the character. And Joe kept saying that the Pattinson version, the Reeves, right? Is his name Matt Reeves?
Matt Reeves, director.
Yeah.
Robert Pattinson.
Is, so Pattinson and Reeves. That this was the closest to my version of Batman. And so to get ready for this, I watched the 1989 version, which before was pretty much the closest thing to my Batman that I could find because Michael Keaton's Batman he can fight, but he's not a ninja. And he is clever. They try really hard to show that he figures out the what do you call it? The Joker's plan to poison everybody, right? I mean, there is a mystery. Yes. He does figure it out, right? That's as close as you get to Detective Batman. So we watched the movie last night. And I gotta say,
now before we get there, I want to say, as far as the '89 Batman, that is for me the most pure translation of comic book to live action for Batman. Meaning, everything in that movie I could see somebody drawing, and it would fit. Right. You could do that as comic panels.
It's amazing how fun that movie is.
It's a blast.
Because
that's why when I said the Joker is not scary, and that's what makes him fun, because he's kind of a lethal buffoon.
Yeah, I know. And I will say this, in the realm of Batman movies, it still is to me, even after seeing this one, it is still the best balance of fun and darkness of all the Batman movies. Because once you get to Joel Schumacher, you go too far into the Adam West territory. And once you get to Bale and Nolan, you get very gritty. And this Matt Reeves version, though I like it a lot, it is still way more gritty. It's not, it's not fun like the '89 Batman. But beyond that, dude, I fucking loved it. When you're right, you're right. I mean, I loved it. Yes, it is closer to my vision of Batman than I have ever seen on the screen. The writing was impeccable. The direction was excellent. Pattinson does a fantastic Batman. The suit design was fascinating. I've read up quite a few things on that suit and other elements of the movie because I was curious about things that they did. But the suit was all based around technologies that existed at the time. So like when they designed it, like there's all these technologies in there that are based around actual military technologies that exist, and like I didn't notice this, but his utility belt, if you look at it, like the pouches and stuff on it are actually like police issued things. It's not just like this. He didn't have the clever yellow pouch belt. Like, there is a certain ad hoc nature to the Batman suit as he's realized he needs things, right? But also the taser in the hand. I mean, that's fucking amazing. I don't think I've ever seen another Batman movie or I don't ever think I've seen a Batman with a taser in the hand. You know, and he never
No,
uses
the
it again.
closest is I think he's had stun gas, but that's
Yeah.
goofy.
But I mean, yeah. So nothing. It was excellent. It was fantastic. I got to the end of that 2 hour and 40 something minute movie, and I could have watched another 20 minutes of it. I think I say that on the commentary we did. That was like, shit. I can watch more of this. And the sad thing is now that I've watched it, now I want them to do another one.
Yeah, that's my wife said the same thing because we
know?
watched it a week ago and I was ready to watch it again right away. I'm like, no, I can watch this again. This is fine.
Yeah,
It's a 3 hour
and like
movie.
I mean,
can sit
just
through
to go through, it's so I was reading about how the writer, what Reeves wrote it with somebody else, and how he always kind of wanted Pattinson for the role because he envisioned Bruce Wayne as a like rock, almost like a recluse rock star, right? Which is fine. He's a rich recluse. It makes sense. But he took inspiration from Batman Year One, Long Halloween, and Hush. And I'm like, oh, you know what? I can see the DNA for all of that in your fucking movie. You know, it's all there. And I there's just so much clever writing to this. You know, they don't overdo the kookiness of the villains. Their villains are weird but also scary. And even I mean, like they made a penguin that is actually quite. It's like Sopranos meets. Basically it's like a Sopranos penguin is really what it is, isn't it?
Yeah, I forgot that I saw Colin Farrell said he based it on I think like a 1928 or something mob character. So it's definitely a specific type of voice. But
yeah, they made
it
him
is a Sopranos.
Yeah,
You know, classical
they made
mob
him
guy type
kind
thing.
of like mob scary, right?
Yeah.
I mean, and what's funny is that this is a movie that has Catwoman, Penguin, Riddler, and even to a certain degree, a little bit of Joker, right? Just a touch. And we used to complain about this shit when they did it with Schumacher, where they're like, we need to have two villains. But this movie perfectly balances its use of villains because, I mean, you even got Falcone's in this, right? So you got lots of people, but the writing is done in such a way that they balance all these villains out. I mean, Penguin's not in it for a lot, but he has an important role.
Well, that's why I think it works is because Catwoman is not an antagonist. She's
Nope.
more of a sidekick, a Robin surrogate in
Yep.
many ways. Penguin is a component of Gotham, but again, is not a main villain. He's not the direct he's not the person that's being chased. He is a source of information. The Riddler is the villain. And
Yes.
I didn't realize that originally the Joker scene was not in the movie. They put it back in. They had originally taken it out and at some point made a decision to put it back in, which I think was a mistake. It's my one real
Oh, wait,
complaint.
that sequence where the two of them talk?
Yeah, that was originally
didn't
they
need to
thought
be
it
in the
was a
movie.
bad idea. Yeah, it did
No,
not.
it didn't need
That
to
was
be
the only
there,
bad
yeah.
move.
That's probably the only bad decision they made.
That's it. Really.
Otherwise,
Yeah.
Jeffrey Wright is fantastic as Gordon. Hey, I loved Gary Oldman as Gordon, and I think that Gary Oldman really paved the way for them to do more with Gordon, right? Because the thing is, when you watch the Adam West, the Tim Burton Batman, Tim Burton didn't know what to do with Gordon. So Gordon is just there the same way he was in the Adam West Batman, is just like this side useless exposition character.
Listen,
right?
Tim Burton is rarely interested in the normal people. Even
Yeah.
Kim Basinger is just screaming for most of that movie.
Yeah, exactly. So the fact that Nolan did so much interesting shit, but the thing is, everybody's pulling off of Batman Year One. If you see all those Gordon, the writing for these new versions of him, they're not new versions. It's Batman Year One, and that's the intelligent thing is they went and they found one of the best Gordon stories, and the Batman Year One is good because it's a parallel of how Gordon realizes what Gotham is and Batman realizes what he has to become to be the Batman in Gotham. You know, and that's Frank Miller too, isn't it? Batman Year One.
I want to say yes,
Man,
but
it's
let me
such
verify. Batman Year One. Yeah, I think it is. I think it's Frank
Yeah, I'm
Miller
pretty
and,
sure it's yeah.
David Mazzucchelli is the artist or something like that.
Yeah.
Let's see. Frank Miller wrote it. David
Yeah, and
Mazzucchelli is the artist.
It's amazing. It's amazing the way some
But
writers
don't forget,
evolve.
it's 87.
Yeah,
before
no,
Frank Miller went
I'm aware.
cuckoo for Cocoa Puffs.
Yeah, I know it's before he went nuts. So yeah, Batman Year One is a phenomenal book. Anybody who wants to get into Batman, start with Batman Year One, because all these successful Batman movies have used that as kind of the framework for what they're doing, right? And so Jeffrey Wright does fantastic as Gordon. He's very much playing off of that vision of Gordon, and also, I mean, listen, the animated series also took it so much further. Right, that is a source that can never be ignored, which is what great storytelling they did in that. And Gordon is used,
and that's why I was very specific about saying this is the best live action of what you want Batman to be that I've seen. Because the animated series is the totality. That first season of Batman animated series is unparalleled in how great it is.
So we'll go through it, by its paces. I mean, the Riddler is exceptionally well done. That scene, he's used well throughout because he's kind of a mystery. His shit is actually mysterious. You don't figure it out. In fact, I will say one of the genius moments of this movie is the moment in the movie where I thought, at the same moment, Batman thought that the Riddler had figured out his secret identity, and then we, the audience, in the same moment that Batman realizes that the Riddler's we realize it at the same time as the character. I mean, that's very good writing to have you and the lead experience something at the same time.
You put me into an awkward position with this movie because it's a rare case where I didn't want to spoil it.
Oh, that's funny.
Because I knew it was so well constructed where you were asking me, so he knows it's Bruce Wayne. I'm like, well, I'll let you interpret that when we get there, because I'm like, no. If I tell
honestly,
you,
I wouldn't have cared because it's so beautifully acted either way. Like in that moment, there's the final scene where Riddler and Batman sit down, and Batman realizes that Riddler hasn't figured him out, and the Riddler realizes that Batman hasn't figured him out. It's like it's two people who thought they had the high hand and realize that neither of them has shit. And then the movie has this fantastic third act with the flooding. And it's like I was thinking, I said to you, I was like, Riddler actually has an incredible body count in this movie because he floods the fucking city. He floods the downtown.
Yeah.
So it's like, I mean, he must have killed hundreds of people.
You would think.
Yeah, so the Riddler is very well done. His costume makes sense, and his argument makes sense. I mean, his whole thing about how, he was a poor orphan and no one gave a shit, and fuck Bruce Wayne because he's not really an orphan. He had a butler and a fucking fortune, and he never suffered. Like, yes, he suffered losing his parents, but the rest of them suffered that and were fucking poor, and no one gave a shit about them. So it's like, yeah, I mean, you kept saying it's like to have a villain where you kind of sit there and go, I get it, yeah. It's just that his response was then to kill everybody. Which, hey, listen,
yes, he
based on our past discussion, maybe the Riddler's not 100% wrong.
The Riddler's problem, as is often the case with a villain like this, is that he condemned people who were truly innocent along with the guilty.
Yeah, he takes it to the extreme.
That's when you become a monster and you become a killer. As opposed to initially, he's punishing the people directly involved. Like up to a certain point, it is the Luigi thing where he's just executing the corrupt.
Yeah.
And you really can't blame him because all these things keep coming out, and you're like, well...
And you're like, oh, Jesus, those people were bastards,
Right. Yeah. But then once he blows the seawalls, it's like, well, wait a minute, man. You're going to tell me that every 4-year-old that's caught in that wave is somehow culpable? I don't think so.
You're just going after everybody? Yeah.
then it becomes damn everybody, and that's why I think he writes "See You in Hell" when he thinks Batman's his partner. Which, even though he's wrong about Batman being on the same wavelength, he does use him to do everything he wants.
That's the thing, is that Batman doesn't realize that he's giving the Riddler everything he wants.
And to some degree, that's the interesting part, is that because he keeps doing what the Riddler wants, the Riddler logically is like, oh yeah, he gets it. We're working together because Batman keeps doing everything for him that he wants him to do.
Yeah, he's figuring. Yeah, and I love that line where he says to him, he's like, I guess you're not as smart as I thought you were. Yeah, and that really burns him. Yeah, it's funny. So yeah, Riddler's is fantastically done. I'm not even going to mention the Joker because it's a pointless scene and shouldn't even be in the movie.
Yep.
I thought that Colin Farrell's performance of the Penguin was excellent. I don't want to watch a series with him. I realize this because though I like him, I realize I like him in doses. I don't need a whole gritty, grim show about his bastardry. I want to see him used good in a movie, but I don't need him. I don't need him to be the lead. Do you know what I mean?
Sure.
I'm glad the show. I'm glad the show did well. I'm glad that any of this stuff does well. But I liked him in the movie. I don't know if I need a whole show. It's almost like it's too much cake. But he is good. I mean, he's, and Jeffrey Wright, like I said, is amazing as Gordon. Who else is the Catwoman? You know what? Catwoman. I felt that Zoe Kravitz's performance of Catwoman was better than Anne Hathaway's. I liked her more than the Nolan Catwoman. But she is the more gritty, damaged version. And Michelle Pfeiffer Catwoman is still the best balance of the fun and darkness. You know, I'm sticking to those guns where it's like, I just think Tim Burton's version is still the best balance of fun and dark. Whereas, but if you want like dark and gritty, I think that this is probably the best version. The Batman is the best version.
As someone who has never been particularly attached to the Catwoman character, I'm fine with all of them. I've never.
Oh, Anne Hathaway's in the comics,
not. I've never gotten the appeal of it. I get what it is, the Catwoman character, but I've never thought the character was all that strong.
I thought she was fun in the Tim Burton version because they added this whole mystery of,
No. That's what I'm saying is I think each of them works within the universe they're being portrayed in.
Yes. They are changed by the universe they're in. But so is Batman.
Yeah.
You know?
Right. But that's what I'm saying. I don't think any of them are better because each of them is in such a different type of movie that I'm like, okay, well, if you're watching this is the best Catwoman. If you're watching that one, that's the best Catwoman.
I like the way they balance those two characters, too, because she's not bad. She's almost like, if you're going by the whole Dungeons & Dragons alignment, she's almost chaotic. She's either chaotic good or chaotic neutral, right?
Yeah.
Whereas Batman is like, was it ordered good or lawful good? I think is what it is.
I think he'd be lawful good. But again, when he's talking at one point, she's like, "Yeah, you talk like somebody who has money."
Yeah, she does. Yeah, and that's the thing.
But the thing is, when you find out her backstory, of course she's going to be like this. Look at her life.
Yeah, but the two, their whole relationship, I think, is kind of balanced because she meets somebody who's like her to some extent, and has that same kind of baggage, and she is. I mean, she's attracted to him. And so, like, I guess the relation, especially like a high tension thing like that, it kind of makes sense. And yet, when they get to the end of it all, she does say, what does she say? She says, you're already spoken for, when she's talking about the city, and it's like,
she's like, why don't you come with me and we'll we'll get into some trouble. Who am I kidding? You're already spoken for.
Yeah. So, like, I love that scene. I mean, it's this great sequence of them writing together at the end and then them turning and going separate ways. I mean, that's the other thing, too. There's some, before I get to the Batman himself, there's some phenomenal shots in this movie. I mean, I usually hate that when they do these over-iconic shots, but Reeves manages to figure out how to time it. Be like, the Lord of the Rings series had this problem, where they'd be like, check out this incredibly iconic scene, and we're going to slow it down for 20 minutes so you can just see
I was about to say the problem with many of them is they feel like they have to do slow motion to make sure you get that you should be noticing this. And there's almost no slow motion in this whatsoever.
I did find out one interesting thing about this movie. So the scene where the Penguin blows up everything on the road, and then he starts
Yeah,
going.
they slowed
I
it down
got you."
because of his.
They didn't know.
acting.
They
I
didn't
saw
know.
it.
They didn't slow it down.
Oh no, they added explosions
They
so
added
he would keep going.
explosions, so we had more time to basically be like, "I got you," and then to make it a
Yeah,
bigger thing. Yeah,
yeah.
I do
did
like
read
that. But that's
yeah.
what I mean is that this guy's timing is very good because there's that whole hallway sequence where Batman shows up. That's his hallway scene, right? And they're all shooting at him. He's beating the shit. That scene lasts 3 minutes. That's it. It's not this
And you could see that as a drawing in a comic with no.
Oh yeah,
effort.
but what I'm saying is that he used it. It's a beautifully shot scene. It's awesome.
Yeah.
But you know what? It was brief, and that's what the thing is. He knows how to have these iconic sequences and not overdo it. You know, or to find a way to do like the sequence with the where he walks out of the Batmobile towards the Penguin, right? The fact that they turned the whole thing upside down. He refused to give in to the idea of writing it for the audience. He left it in the Penguin's point of view. So you could so one of the most iconic scenes in the movie is fucking upside down. Did they make it right side up in the trailer?
I don't remember. I haven't watched the trailer, so I'm not actually sure.
Interesting,
I don't
so-
think you actually see that in the trailer that I remember. I think they didn't have it.
You've got excellent writing. You've got great actors. You've got a director who knows how to not overdo it, right? Who also has a vision. He clearly had a vision for this, right? And then on top of that, Pattinson is a good Batman. He is a young, angry motherfucker, and he's going into this mode where he's realizing that vengeance is not the point. Actually, I was going to say to you, I watched a scene again of this movie, and can you guess what scene I watched again?
Was it the end where he's in the water and then the rescue thing?
It's the sequence where he comes over the top of the what do you call it, the stadium, holding the woman. And he's walking through the people.
girl,
and he's
the little girl.
Yeah, no.
That's what I'm talking about. So
yeah, and he puts her in the stretcher.
Yes, that's what I meant.
Yeah.
The part from the flare until he lets the girl's hand
and
go when she's airlifted. I figured it was that.
When she puts her hand on him,
And
then
he looks down.
and he looks down, and he holds her hand, and he looks at. It is the moment in that movie where the Batman completely shifts gears.
Well, you remember now. Just a note in the commentary, my microphone cut out for about 5 minutes, and we didn't realize it. So Lando was talking. There are long stretches in the commentary where we're not talking intentionally.
Well, because it's a fucking amazing movie.
I attempted not to talk during the car sequence, but I couldn't do it because I love that sequence too much.
No, and we'll get to that.
Yeah, we will. But in that, I said, you notice his expression has completely changed.
Yeah,
and that's when it happens.
It softens, and he realizes in that moment. And the thing is, I guess I saw an interview with Pattinson about how you don't realize what acting through the suit is like because you put the suit on and you look in the mirror and you realize that all these avenues are lost to you. And that you basically
half your face is missing.
Yeah, you've got kind of part of your face, and you've got your eyes, and you've got your posture. And it is such an expertly done scene with Pattinson. Pattinson really fucking knew what he was doing with this. I haven't watched a lot of his art films, but doing all the weird art films he's done has really paid off because his acting is fantastic. He's come a long way from Twilight.
Well, I think that was his idea was, oh, they all think this is all I am, so I have to be able to get myself out of it.
Yeah. Yeah, and apparently he got the role for this when he started filming Tenet with Nolan.
Yeah, I read that Reeves was like, oh man, we're not going to be able to get him because he wrote it for him, not even knowing if he would do it.
Yeah.
So
yeah, I mean, he is fantastic. He's fantastic in the role. He wears the suit well. I like that this is a young, angry Batman. Andy Serkis is Alfred. They went with an... This is the one thing I found out after the fact that I'm not 100% with. So this is the version of Alfred that I think they may have done this in the books. But originally Alfred was just the butler. And part of what made Alfred fascinating to me was I know that he was supposed to be like ex-military from his youth, right? But I always like the fact that Alfred was like trying to do all this.
Well, I think the original Alfred had served in the war in terms of
Yes,
ex-military.
yes.
Not that he was a specialist or
No.
a
But in
MI6
this
or whatever.
version, the director said he liked the idea of Alfred having been not the bodyguard, but no, not the butler, but the bodyguard, and then he became the butler afterwards to take care of Bruce because he felt that he failed his father, and that he's ex some level of British intelligence, which is why he understands the ciphers so well. And I'm like, okay. It's like, I get it. You need to update your Alfred for this day and age. You do, because he can't be a World War II veteran, right? But either way, I mean, Andy Serkis is an excellent actor, and he did excellent in the role. And anything, I felt that he was underused. I mean, but this whole movie is about clever underuse, is never giving you too much, even though you know how awesome it is. And any other director would have been like, you think that's cool? Now I'm going to give you, a half hour more of it. Yeah. Despite the length of this movie, I still got to the end going, I'd like some more. I mean, even the Batmobile. The Batmobile doesn't show up in this movie till what, the halfway point? Or maybe like...
Yes, that's the thing, is you see throughout the movie, you just see like parts of it. It's covered up. You see like parts of, but he's always riding a motorcycle, which I think is smart because they make it like, oh, okay, the motorcycle is his vehicle because he's constantly on a motorcycle. But you see the car is covered up.
You see
don't
the
even know
engine.
if it's intact. Yeah. You see the engine but it's out of the car. The engine is not, there's never a scene where we see him put the car together.
Yeah.
So I think a lot of people, if the trailer hadn't given away that the car was going to be used, I don't think you would even have necessarily been expecting the car to really appear till either the end, like where he's like, all right, Alfred, I've completed my next thing. And it's there it is. But you see it, and he's just constantly in the cave. He's tinkering with stuff. But like I said, this movie is nearly 3 hours long. It's just short of 3 hours. For the first half, all you're seeing is him, on a rooftop, on a motorcycle, constantly on a motorcycle, and he's tinkering around, and then you get to this sequence where there's this shootout at a thing, and again, there's no indication of anything happening, and the music's going, and the penguin's like firing, and I do love the fact that everybody refers to him as Vengeance after a while. It is great when he's like, hey, Vengeance! And he's just screaming it. Like, that shit to me is almost comical, but I like it, because that's his tagline is, I am Vengeance, and everybody kind of knows it. So he's firing, and there's all this music, and then you see the penguin kind of looks around, and all the music drops out, and I'm going to play it again because I fucking love it. All you see is like a black hallway, or I guess you just see a space. And the music just shuts off and you hear this shit engine with the car.
I mean,
and as all that's happening, you see all this light and smoke, and everybody just turns and looks because no one knows what it is. Because as far as I'm aware, this is the first time it's ever been out.
Yeah.
As far as we can tell.
Yeah.
And this thing has got blue jet lightning happening behind it. It's got red fucking Knight Rider, you called it, shit in the front. And as soon as that thing where he pulls forward, the music cuts back in, and then the penguin shits his pants and runs. And then we get this great sequence,
I mean, and
like
again,
you were talking about.
It's a phenomenal car sequence, a car chase. And yet it's also, when you stop and look at how long it is, it's so much shorter than you think it is. Yes. Like, he didn't, you said, I could have watched this for another 10 minutes. And it's like, yeah, you're right. You could. But the director is so restrained, he gives you just enough to be like, here you go. Now we're going to move on to the next thing. And it is a phenomenal scene. I mean, and it ends in probably one of the most iconic scenes of the movie.
Yes, interestingly, today, before we recorded, my wife and I, for our summer movie festival selection, hers was Death Proof. So we watched Death Proof. And I'm like, man, oh man, I've had a great weekend of watching cars fucking get driven. Like, this is good shit, man, because that car was built, it was running, it was a practical car like the Tumbler, as you mentioned, and other cars. And then Death Proof, of course, is all old school, like stunt driving and smashing cars. So I'm like, man, it's a good weekend to be a gearhead if you want to see fucking muscle
and
cars.
The shape of the car, it's subtle, but it's got this nice wide shape with like just the fins. You know, it reminds me of some of the older Batmobiles from the books.
Well, it looks like the Adam West Batmobile, which was just a modified Falcon or whatever. It was, that was a real car that they just chopped. So it wasn't like they invented, because the Batmobile in '89 is a completely invented body shape on top of, I don't remember what the model of car was. And still
one of the coolest designs. I mean...
No. That is, without a doubt, my favorite Batmobile design. I mean, as far as the look, I doubt that will ever be topped. I can't even imagine how. It's that good looking.
Yeah, but this is, and now it takes us to the next interesting thing is, so every time Batman gets into a fight in this movie, his theme music plays. And I kept saying to you, why is the Imperial March playing for Batman? Right? And apparently the guy who did the soundtrack is hugely inspired by John Williams. Right?
What a surprise.
Yeah, I know. That's number one. And number two, he says that it isn't based off the Imperial March. It's actually based off of Chopin's Funeral March. Right? But the Imperial March is also based off of Chopin's Funeral March.
Sure.
So they're both derivatives of the same thing, but you can literally change a few notes in it, and it's the Imperial March. So it is kind of strange that he wanted to use such iconically.
Oh no! My read of that is because this movie's main idea, or one of them, I guess I should say, is the idea of vengeance changing to hope. Well, since most of the movie he is functioning as a threat, as vengeance,
it's the reverse of Vader, isn't it?
Well, no, I wouldn't say it's the reverse. It's just without the evil intent. But his idea is he wants to project fear. He says as much in the beginning. So it makes sense that something that led to Vader, who is feared by everybody, you would want that same feeling for Batman, because at the beginning of the movie, his idea is I have to terrify the criminals away. And then
when he shows up,
this is not going to work.
When he shows up and he starts swinging, you're like, oh my God, he's going to fucking destroy those people. Like I know at one point you were like, it's good that they still land some hits on him. I'm like, it's fine. But I mean, he's so fucking angry. And I kept thinking of in Dark Knight Rises, where Bale says Tom Hardy as Bane says to Bale's Batman, "Oh, you fight like a much younger man." And then I think I said to you, it's like, but this is the younger man. I was like, he's fucking destroying people. I mean, I do like that they went with this kind of, it's almost like a martial artist light approach. It's like he's just so fucking angry that he's just punching through people. Yeah, but that music kicks in though, and it just adds this dread to the character, but like this supportive dread. You know what I mean? Like where you're sitting there going, "Yeah, Batman, fuck them up," right? You were in support of him, but you do realize that he is a scary dude. You know, and you know his secrets, but he's still, I mean, he is a very angry Batman at the beginning of this. But I gotta tell you, watching this movie restored my faith in Batman as a character. I was thinking about it most of the day on and off. I read about it because I kind of wanted to understand some more things about why they did the costume and this and that. And I have to say that of all the Batman stories I have recently read and or seen, right? I think that this movie actually gave me hope that there's still some life to this character. I am excited about the idea of watching another movie with, Reeves and Pattinson. I don't really give too much of a shit about what James Gunn's going to do with Batman, and I have never watched, nor do I have any plan on watching the Ben Affleck Batman, which is sad because I actually don't mind the look of the Ben Affleck Batman. I think you'll remember that I was very excited at the idea of Ben Affleck writing and directing his own Batman movie. and being the star, because he always makes really good movies out of himself. It's like he plays to his own strengths, right? And I will admit, I am genuinely sad that Ben Affleck never had the opportunity to make his own Batman movie, because he was always second fiddle to somebody else. He was always either, oh, I'm gonna fight Superman, or it's I need to put the team together. And he never got the chance to just be his own Batman. And it's sad because Ben Affleck loves Batman, and I didn't. I mean, it was clearly bulky Batman. He was the big Dark Knight Batman.
He was doing Dark Knight Returns version.
Yeah. But he looked good, and I would have liked to see him do something with that. But this Batman, the Reeves Pattinson Batman, is fantastic. He looks good, and I with this team behind it, and now that they've been unleashed from the timeline, which I think is actually a good thing. The fact that DC not only gave them the green light, but also said, you know what, you guys are in Elseworlds, you don't have to fit into the whatever universe we're fucking with. I'm like, yes, that means that they can build it whatever way they want, and I'm more excited about that. I mean, I think we've always said the Elseworld stories are the best stories, where you get to examine different elements of a character. I am fully on board for Reeves and Pattinson doing their Elseworld Batman. It was just, it was great. I mean, I can gush about it for an hour if you want, but I think I've pretty much said everything I can say.
Yeah, and I mean, I already reviewed it, so
Yeah.
I've said all of it. I agree. I'm really glad you got to see it, because I really thought this would be your reaction, and because honestly, you are a much bigger Batman fan than I am in terms of the character. I like Batman fine, but I'm not.
No, he's one of my
As much of a fan.
he's one of my iconic characters in my life.
No.
Yeah.
Interestingly, I know a lot of people who are huge Batman fans, and while I like the character, I love the '89 Batman, and I've read, and I grew up idolizing Norm Breyfogle, who was the defining artist for Batman for quite a while. I have the 2 collections of all his work, so I do like Batman, but Batman was never the thing that for Batman for me is Two-Face, which that Two-Face is. For me, you could kill Batman as long as Two-Face is alive, I'm good.
Can you imagine what Reeves could do with Two-Face?
I can, maybe it'll happen. But, but Green Lantern was my character. I was more of a Green Lantern person.
It is an interesting counter school, isn't it? It's like you are the Green Lantern man and I'm the Batman man.
Right, yeah. So that's why watching this, and you had said with the Nolan movies, I remembered very clearly that, this isn't the detective. I want the detective. Where is the detective Batman? This is such a big part of the comic. And watching this, where I'm like, Jesus Christ, they made a serial killer mystery with Batman.
Yeah,
How
and you
could
said
you
yourself,
get a
it's
more
like
perfect
7.
version?
It's like 7 with Batman.
Yeah, and it, by making it year 2, which I think was smart, so that it was not the perfect, they took, Batman always wins.
They took all the fascinating components from year 1 and they just ported them in year 2.
Well, I think what they also did, which I would never have seen this as something that I thought I would care to watch as a specific plot point, but the idea of his transformation from vengeance to hope. It's not something I would ever have identified as, I would like to see a movie where he realizes that he needs to be more of an inspiration. Yeah. Because I'm so used to Batman being a tool of fear, because that is his origin, is the bat scares him. He decides, I'm going to scare people. So it's not something I would ever have articulated.
I connected with the idea at the end where he says people need to think that someone's coming for them.
No. I think it's great. But I would never have... If somebody had said, what's something that nobody's done with Batman that you'd like to see? It would never have occurred to me to say,
that is
I'd like to see him go from being fear to hope. And it's like, but it works so well. I'm thrilled it's there.
It's one of the most hopeful endings of a Batman movie, despite how fucking dark it is. Because at the end of, I mean, if
well,
we
he
go through
says
them,
it's going to get worse before it gets better. So he says it's going to be bad for a while.
At the end of the Tim Burton movies, right? Like the first one ends kind of well. He kills the Joker, or the Joker dies, and then he ends up with the girl, which is a very classic movie thing. But like in the second movie, right? Catwoman, he thinks Catwoman is dead. Nothing ended up the way. I mean, he saved the city, but he kind of lost. You know, when you really think about it. He and then when you get to, I mean, let's not even do the Schumacher ones because those are fucking operas. And when you get to Bale, I mean, Bale, the iconic scene at the end of the first one is where basically he thinks he's going to get the girl, and she's like, "Hey, I've just realized that you're not Bruce Wayne. You're Batman." She's like, "Batman's who you really are."
Right.
And that's not going to work between us. And then the second one where he still wants to be with her, right? And she finds somebody else, and then she dies.
The fuck up.
Yeah, and she dies. And I mean, he wins, but he loses everything in the process. Like he proves the Joker wrong, but he has to become the bastard of the city to save, to basically stop what Joker has like psychologically done, right? So I mean, if anything, the Bale movies are all about Batman winning, but in kind of the worst case scenario. And even like the third one, like he gets away with the girl, but you know what? I'm not entirely sure that's what the Bale Batman wanted. Like, did he? I mean, he was so miserable when in the beginning of the movie where he's basically retired. He's so miserable, and I kind of look at that end where he runs off, and I always felt like that ending was like kind of wish fulfillment. Like, I don't think that's what
this is what Alfred wants for me, as opposed to what I want.
Yeah, for me. Like I don't know if at no point did Batman turn around and be like, "I'm going to run away, and I'm going to be nobody, and I'm just going to wander the earth." It's like, no. What are you and Catwoman actually going to get up to? Like that's one of those endings that I always look at it and I go, it's wish fulfillment, but it doesn't make sense, right? Whereas, the ending for this movie, well, you know what? Catwoman is still alive. She wants to be with him, but realizes that he is completely dedicated to his mission. And he realizes he is. So the girl lives and is out there, right? He knows she's still out there. And on top of that, he goes from being vengeance to being hope. And I'm like, holy shit, that's a big deal. I mean, and that's why I go back to that sequence at the end where he says something like, I didn't think that I was changing the city. I was changing the city. I just didn't realize the way I was changing it. And it's like, yeah, you are realizing now the actuality of what you're doing and the effect that it's having. And now you can pivot and you can do things slightly differently, So no, I fucking loved it. It was fantastic. Like I said, we could go on and gish about it for another hour.
Yeah.
I actually think my wife would really enjoy it. I just got to carve out time to actually watch that because it's. But I think that the Batmobile scene is the intermission. Like basically,
I would agree. Yeah,
the second
it's right after that cuts to black, you can basically say, "All right, we'll pick this up tomorrow."
Yeah, that's episode 1, right? Yeah.
Yeah.
And my wife was like, "Would you watch this?" So I was going on about it. She's like, "Would you watch this as an HBO Max series?" And I was like, "Fuck yeah!" I was like, "If somebody did I mean, the problem is, I mean, how do you keep the writing at this level? That's the hard part."
Well, you have to do it as a one and done. You have to do it as a run, but you have to basically say, okay, here's either you're going to focus on one villain a season and it's going to be like 6 or 7 episodes, like short, and you just you do that version, and every here's the 5 villains we want to do, 5 seasons, and it's done.
Yeah.
That's it.
Yeah.
And you're finished, because otherwise you can't. It has to be limited.
Yeah.
It has to be.
Yeah, but then Penguin just got another series.
Well, that's because the Penguin is more about Gotham City. That's Gotham Central, which I've argued could be a series itself.
Yeah, is Jeffrey Wright? Is Jeffrey Wright in the Penguin series?
I don't know I think he may have guested a couple, but I don't know if it's. Yeah. I think it's more about the underworld.
Got it.
So I think it's.
Yeah, and what's interesting is after watching this movie, I realized that I would love to see Reeves handle things like, I'd like to see him try to handle Robin. I'd like to see him handle, Robin's transition to Nightwing and things like that. I mean, those are in the right hands. That could be very fascinating. But I don't even know. Ah, man, like how would?
Okay, so no, Jeffrey Wright does not show up, but the other guy, the guy you knew, the guy with that voice, he is in it. So they basically put the other guy in.
Yeah, that guy with that unique.
So
voice.
he's still the chief, and he's in it instead. So there you go.
So, yeah. So the Batman is great, and I hope they make the sequel.
They're trying. We'll see.
Yeah.
And on that note, everybody, that's it. I didn't even bother watching anything else because I didn't even want to play another clip that didn't start with this. Don't worry, I won't play the whole thing again. I just wanted to play a little bit, but there's no clip I was going to have. That was, oh my God. Yeah.
The problem with owning a car like that is that, like, you just, wherever you go, you're just the loudest thing there. You know what I mean?
Well, I mean, that's the point of
like,
and I was going to say, by the way,
yeah.
He may not have got Catwoman, but at the end of the movie, he still got that car, and that ain't nothing, man. That ain't nothing.
Oh, you know what? My son's got it. He's got the Batmobile thing because when Bale was his first Batman, right? So we were talking about The Dark Knight, and we saw a clip of it, and he's on the motorcycle, right? And my son goes, "Where's the tumbler?" He's like, "Is the tumbler not in this?" He's like, "Where's the tumbler?" And he was so put out that the Batmobile possibly wasn't in the movie. And I'm like,
right. Yeah.
And I was like, it's in the movie. That's as far as we're going to go.
It will show up.
It'll show up. Yeah. Because I actually think that's really well handled in that movie. The transition from the Batmobile to the Batpod.
Yeah.
But anyway.
Yeah.
Yeah. Go ahead.
That's it, everybody. So if you haven't seen the Batman, carve out the 3 hours. It is worth seeing because it's that good. And that's it. That's the show. We're under 2 hours, even with the things I can tell by the counter. So on that note, thanks for being here. Go watch the Batman or something of equivalent quality, whatever you do. And yeah, that's it. I don't think I have any programming notes for this show. Therefore, devs will be coming up as the next late night feature series. So get ready for 8 hours of that. But we're not there yet. So enjoy your weekend, whatever you choose to do. And we'll talk to you again next week. Visit OzoneNightmare.com to subscribe to new episodes, browse through our back catalog, or to find links to support the show. Follow @OzoneNightmare on Twitter for the latest episode postings and other show information. If 280 characters just isn't enough, you can always email us, theozonenightmare@gmail.com. The opening theme for the show is provided by Heartbeat Hero. The closing theme is provided by Ogre. Please visit and support these artists using the links in the show notes for each episode.